Part 159. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1591. Open the door, pass through the hallway, and enter the living room. Zhang Xi divided the troops into 3 teams. One team was responsible for installing the bomb, the other team was responsible for protecting the safety of the installers, the other team was led by her to the master bedroom on the 2nd floor. When they reached the corner of the stairs, they saw pitch-like black mucus leaking down the stairs. Just looking at it made people's scalp tingle. Going further up, the floor of the aisle is almost covered with black slime, and there is nowhere to go. Tang Tang was courageous, tried to step on it, and said with a smile, "Huh? It seems to be fine." Zhang Xi breathed a sigh of relief. It may be because of the isolation of the protective clothing. Everyone should remain vigilant and try not to expose their skin to the air. Others should claim to be. Continuing to walk in, there is more and more mucus, the floor is very slippery, and they are more and more careful when they move. During this period, the calls for help continued, intermittently coming from the bedroom. The door was open, and Zhang Xi led someone in. Even though she was mentally prepared, when she saw the scene in front of her again, her heart still twitched violently. That's horrible. So many shriveled corpses, soaked in thick mucus all over the place, most of them even had their eyes open, with expressions of terror from their previous lives. Zhang Xi tried not to look directly at the dead as much as possible. She calmed down and stood at the door with other special police officers to check the room. After a careful look, there were indeed no survivors. At this time, the woman's head growing from the back of Mo Zhang's neck changed slightly. It struggled, as if it wanted to get out of Mo Zhang's body, raised its head vigorously, twisted its shoulder and neck, and made a creaking sound. Zhang Xi and her teammates picked up the gun almost at the same time, ready to feed it a few bullets at any time. Wait, Zhang Xi was startled, and stopped. The woman's originally blurred face gradually became clear, and finally turned into a middle-aged woman. Tang Tang was surprised and said, "Huh? The witches of the Kalanga country, why do they look like people from our country?" Damn, Zhang Xi gritted her teeth and cursed, her face turned extremely ugly, "That's my mother." Everyone was taken aback. "Your mother was also eaten by a witch," Tang Tang was even more surprised. Zhang Xi replied, "Bah. My mother died a long time ago." She raised the gun in her hand, aimed at the witch's head, and gritted her teeth, "This is fake." The expected gunshots did not ring out. Zhang Xi aimed for a long time, and finally put down her arms helplessly, looking at it with a complicated expression. Can't do it? Facing the face of her biological mother, she really couldn't do anything. Help, help. The cries for help echoed in the room where the dead bodies were lying, and Zhang Xi's face became even uglier. Even the voice is exactly the same as her mother. A special policeman hesitated, it seems to come from her mouth. But her mouth didn't move. Everyone finds it scary. Zhang Xi decided to retreat immediately. Since there are no hostages to be rescued here, there is no need to stay any longer. Just when she was about to leave, the woman's head seemed to realize that her change and voice hadn't worked, and she changed again. This time, that face turned into a man's face. Mu Zhenning, Tang Tang was stunned. Zhang Xi also knew Mu Zhenning, but the Mu Zhenning in her memory was definitely not as handsome as the face in front of her. After thinking about it, Zhang Xi realized that the witch's changing appearance was actually what she and Tang Tang had in mind. To Zhang Xi, Mu Zhenning was just an ordinary man, even a bit annoying, but in Tang Tang's heart, he was a beautified image. As for why Zhang Xi's mother and Mu Zhenning were changed, it was because, in the distress on the stairs, the tentacles touched Zhang Xi and Tang Tang. Zhang Xi was afraid that Tang Tang would be stupid, so she grabbed her hand and stepped back. Mu Zening shouted intermittently, "Tang Tang, come, come here. I'm going to take a break, I'll update later. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again." Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1592. Tang Tang was dragged away by Zhang Ci. She was still a little dazed, and murmured as she walked, "It's amazing, it's exactly the same as Mu Zening." "Bullshit," Zhang Ci scolded, "it doesn't look like it at all. It's all fake." A group of people hurried downstairs, but the bomb downstairs has not been installed yet. Zhang Ci was in a hurry, "What's going on?" The installers took her to see, and saw a black goo oozing from the ceiling, so smooth and viscous that the bombs in two places could not be fixed. Even with duct tape, it won't stick to the leaking mucus ceiling. Zhang Ci was very anxious, "Find another fulcrum. Use a ladder, whatever you want, in short, install it as soon as possible." At this time, someone came in from outside. Zhang Ci turned around in astonishment, and saw Gu Liang and two police officers. Tang Tang let out a cheer, and ran over to hug Gu Liang, but both of them were wearing bulky protective clothing, hugging each other like two Michelin inflatables, bumping into each other, and bouncing back. Zhang Ci's eyes widened, "Why did you come in?" Those three people were also confused. Gu Liang frowned and replied, "We heard you and Tang Tang calling for help outside." Zhang Ci's face turned black, and he gritted his teeth and cursed, "This monster! Officer Zhang! Come here quickly," the SWAT team member guarding the stairs suddenly shouted. Zhang Ci went over immediately, and Gu Liang and the others quickly followed. There is more and more black mucus on the stairs. It used to be just wisps, but now it is overflowing, flowing down in strands. At the same time, a strange sound came from upstairs, as if something was bumped and approached gradually. Cluck, cluck. Mo sang prostrate on the ground, his whole body was like melted black wax, and slowly crawled down, the head on the back of his neck looked up at Mu Zening's face, and patrolled the people downstairs expressionlessly. Everyone was shocked by this situation. No one thought it would come down. No one even knew it could move. When they first saw it, it was limp and deformed like a monster, so that they all thought it was incapable of action. But it climbed down. With every step, the sticky black mud would rush down with the big ball, and with the countless corpses in the mud, they would stumble onto the railing of the stairs, making a thumping sound, and flow down together. Zhang Ci's face was livid, and she said to the policeman beside her, "Put the bomb right under the stairs, hurry up." The underside of the stairs had not been infiltrated and the installers started working immediately upon arrival. Zhang Ci cautiously raised her gun, wary of the witch's movement, and at the same time backed away slowly, and the others did the same. The witch's face flickered in and out. "Those tentacles are swaying slowly." Perhaps it was because everyone was wearing protective clothing, the tentacles seemed to have lost their senses, lost their hunting targets, and stretched aimlessly in midair. Occasionally, one of Zhang Ci's trouser legs passed by, and then retracted without finding anything. A special police officer said to Zhang Ci, "It has been installed." "Received, the protection personnel are now evacuated," Zhang Ci said, "the person who left last is responsible for detonating." The SWAT team retreated cautiously to cover the teammates who installed the bomb to evacuate quickly. The witch didn't respond, and stared at Tang Tang blankly and emptily. Perhaps she knew that Tang Tang was different from the others here. It has Mu Zening's face, but its voice is hoarse like an old woman's. "Don't you miss him? Kill these people, and I'll resurrect him for you." "How? Kill these people? What about changing back to Mu Zening?" Gu Liang and Zhang Ci were still in their hearts, and they took half a step back calmly, holding the weapons in their hands tightly. A mummy slid down the stairs to Tang Tang's feet along the black sticky substance. The mummy held a kitchen knife in his hand, and his posture seemed to be the last resistance before death. Tang Tang was silent for a moment, picked up the knife, turned around. Gu Liang was startled, and pushed Zhang Ci away, and the two of them avoided together. I can't write. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1593. Tang Tang held up the knife in his hand and stared at them blankly, the smile froze at the corner of his mouth. I kill people, without a knife, I just want to tell you this, she murmured with a smile. What's wrong with you? It's so strange. Gu Liang looked at the confusion on her face, and in an instant, her entire chest was filled with regret. He was blinded by the inner demon, he was afraid of Mu Zhening's existence in her heart. He is on the verge of life and death, and he still can't let go. I can't believe her wholeheartedly. The witch suddenly stretched out her tentacles. Rolling up Tang Tang's arm holding the knife, he stabbed straight at Gu Liang. Gu Liang hurriedly dodged, grabbed Tang Tang's other arm with his backhand, and fell to the ground. At the same time, Zhang Ci and other members of the SWAT team raised their guns and fired. The gunshots were deafening, and the witch and Mo Zhang's body trembled violently during the shooting. It let out a shrill scream. The voice was sometimes young, sometimes old, sometimes a woman, sometimes a man, and sometimes it became Lu Yitong's voice. Go, Zhang Ci yelled. People evacuated one after another, and the last person activated the detonation device. The countdown was 30 seconds. Gu Liang pulled Tang Tang up and ran out. The black sticky soft thing was shot everywhere by the gunshot just now. The ground was sticky and slippery, and finally ran out of the door. Before he could breathe a sigh of relief, the witch's tentacles strangled Tang Tang from behind. Tang! Tang Tang! Gu Liang's face changed drastically. He turned around and rushed over, his arms tightly wrapped around Tang Tang's waist, and he didn't ask the tentacles to drag her upstairs. The protective clothing that was originally used for protection has now become a burden, making it impossible for Tang Tang to perform at her full capacity. She wanted to struggle to take off her clothes, even if only her head and face were exposed, but she stretched out a few tentacles and entangled them together with Gu Liang. The two fell into the mud together. Smelly, sticky, slippery, and cold monsters, even if they are riddled with holes, they still want to take their lives endlessly. The countdown is drawing to a close. Gu Liang struggled several times to stand up, but he was unable to stand up because the surrounding was too sticky. He felt sad. Even if the witch stopped pestering him, the time now was not enough for the two to escape the danger. This life has been full of vicissitudes, and I never thought that I would end up like this. Gu Liang looked at the girl in front of him. She had already taken off all the protective clothing, her skin was white and her lips were red, and she was as energetic as usual. The pain in his heart could not help but subside. After all, he was going to die, so it could be regarded as vigorous. What's more, it's not too bleak to be with her. Gu Liang sighed softly, hugged her into his arms, put his lips against her forehead, and whispered, Tang Tang, I love you. Tang Tang looked at him blankly. No, you don't love me. She shook her head and smiled lightly. No one loves me. She stood up, no longer looking at Gu Liang's face. Her long hair danced without wind, and all the evil things scattered around her. In the name of the evil god, order the ghosts. Countless ghosts gather, like bursts of black mist rushing into the dead bodies. Creak creak. Creak creak. The dead bodies in the swamp were possessed by hundreds of ghosts, stood up hideously and distortedly, and gathered together step by step. Gu Liang gradually lost sight of Tang Tang. There are more and more dead bodies in front of him, layer upon layer, densely packed. His vision is blocked, the world is shrouded, and he can't see anything. I wanted to call her name, but I tasted salty in my mouth. There was a faint light of fire in the darkness. Almost at the same time, he finally screamed out, "Tang tang!" A huge explosion pierced through his eardrums, and with a buzzing sound, consciousness finally dissipated. The moment her body was torn apart, Tang Tang finally understood the true meaning of that old saying. It turned out that she really couldn't keep the black cat for a lifetime. It wasn't because it lived too long, but because she didn't live long enough. She closed her eyes and thought, "It's okay, I've enough. In the beginning, I was born bloody. And later, I died bloody. After leaving this world, I finally forgot about that love and hate. The two will reunite." This is really a sweet pet article. I will continue to write tomorrow. I really can't write today. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1594. The rumbling explosion echoed in the mountains. The doors and windows were shattered, smoke billowed, and the strong smell of gunpowder filled the surrounding air. Zhang Ci looked at the burning house in front of him, trembling with fear. The situation was critical at that time, and she only heard from her subordinates that Gu Liang and Tang Tang were captured by the monster's tentacles after the evacuation was over, and time was running out, and she was powerless to rescue them. No wonder the countdown is short. If it is too long, it will give the monster plenty of time to escape. Zhang Ci led the team into the house to check. There was a lot of smoke in the room, and clusters of flames were burning in many places. The black sticky matter turned into black ash in the high-temperature explosion, and the monster was already smashed to pieces. At a glance, the exploding corpses are all over the ground. It's like hell on earth. Zhang Ci looked at the mess in a daze, feeling hopeless and powerless. "Come on. He's still alive," the team members around him exclaimed. They worked together to pull out a man from the pile of corpses. His whole body was covered in thick black blood. There was no doubt that it was Gu Liang. Zhang Ci ran forward a few steps, tested his breath, with incredible shock in his eyes. "It's really not dead, hurry up. Find a stretcher and carry it out." They carried Gu Liang into the car and rushed to the hospital. Zhang Ci stayed at the scene and counted the remains with other personnel. Although all the corpses are beyond recognition, they should be collected as much as possible so that they can be compared with the list of missing persons and their identities can be verified one by one after returning home. The police officer next to him said, "From the location, it seems that these corpses surrounded him with many layers, which slowed down the impact of the explosion, so he managed to survive." Everyone sighed, "Unbelievable." One of them looked up at the ceiling, clasped his hands together and bowed. "It is said that there are gods raised 3 feet above the head. Is it true that the gods have manifested themselves?" Zhang Ci squatted on the ground, picked up a small piece of rag, rubbed it gently with her fingertips, and remained silent for a moment. She recognized this piece of cloth as the dress Tang Tang was wearing. "There are no gods in the world, it's just, someone just happens to love him," she murmured, and sighed disappointedly. The action is over and the work is over. It was getting late at this time. Zhang Ci took the team back to the police station to report, leaving a few people behind to protect the scene. In the vast night, an old man walked with his sleeves folded, as if casually passing by, and then sneaked into the house. A stench of charred corpses came to the nostrils. He caught off guard and took a big breath, quickly covered his mouth and nose, and had the urge to run for the door. Enduring nausea, he looked around, walked to a corner of the living room, pushed aside a piece of burnt flesh, poked 2 fingers in, and pulled out an ancient bronze bell from inside. Shake it, but the bell doesn't ring at all. He wrapped the bell with the corner of his clothes, wiped it gently, put it to his mouth and whispered, "Hey, are you really dead?" No one responded. He sighed for a while, and walked out with the bell in his arms, and the beams of several flashlights caught him straight. "Hey! No one is allowed to enter here. Didn't you see the cordon outside? The guarding police officer shouted. Huang Logui hurriedly shrank his neck and apologized. Let's go, go now. Oh, I'm just curious. After driving away the idlers, the police officer guarding the scene couldn't help muttering, it's strange, I've been watching, why didn't I see the old man go in? Did you see it? The companion shook his head, no. A gust of cold wind blew, and the surrounding woods rustled, inexplicably bringing a sense of gloom. Tisk tisk, you won't be blinded by ghosts, will you? Stop talking, don't talk more scary. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1595. Huang Logui walked all night with a bell in his pocket. In the distance, the east is white, and the dark night has turned into grey-blue, faintly bright, and the sun is about to rise. He stopped in an alley, held the ghost bell in his palm and looked at it. Due to the impact of the explosion, the original belly-like outline had several pits and cracks on the surface, which made Huang Logui feel distressed for a while. It could have been sold for a lot of money, but now, with this good looks, I can probably only keep it for myself. This ghost bell is a magic weapon that can detain evil gods. Although it looks like a cage, the cage is also a shelter. Tang Tang exhausted all her strength at the last second, and only her weak soul remained, hiding in this ghost bell to survive. If Huang Logui hadn't picked her up, she would have stayed inside forever until the ghost bell was broken. She also disappeared. I have sold you twice, and this time I will do good deeds to make up for you. The daughter of this family suffered from soul lostness 3 years ago, and now she is only an empty shell, and her time is numbered. She has no soul, and you have no soul. The body just uses her name to live on. What do you think? After Huang Logui finished asking, he waited for a while, with a perplexed expression on his face. You don't want to go? Why? It was hard for me to find a suitable body, and she has the same name as yours. What a fate. He glanced at the sky and sighed, don't hesitate, the sky will soon dawn, and when that body dies, you won't be able to use it anymore. Waited a while longer. Agreed. Old Ghost Huang showed a smile on his face, and was about to do something, when he paused again. I have to remind you, everything in this house is good, but it's a bit poor, and it's not as good as you and Gul Yang's. It's time to eat delicious food and drink spicy food. Ouch. The bell suddenly rolled down from the palm and hit Huang Logui's feet straight. It was clearly a bell the size of a slap, but it came down with the force of a big brick. The pain was so painful that Huang Logui hugged his feet and screamed. What kind of bad temper are you? Can you change your life again in the future? Can you change it? Squeak. The rusty anti-theft iron door opened, and a middle-aged man stood at the door, staring at Huang Logui. Who are you looking for? The middle-aged man asked. Huang Logui waved his hands and laughed, passing by, hee, I'm just passing by. The other party felt that Huang Logui was weird, so he didn't want to ask more questions, so he closed the anti-theft iron door with a puzzled expression. Huang Logui picked up the bell, rolled up his sleeves again, looked at the dusty courtyard wall and muttered in a low voice, Little ghost, let's start again this time, let's be clean and human. Feeling inexplicably depressed, he shook his head and walked slowly all the way, muttering in his mouth, the way of humanity is slim, the way of immortality is boundless, the way of ghosts is joyous, the gate of life. As soon as the middle-aged man closed the door, he heard his wife shouting from inside the room, Old Tian. Come here. Hearing his wife's voice in a crying voice, Lao Tian didn't dare to delay, and hurried into the house. What's wrong? He rushed in, didn't see his wife, and saw that there was a light on in the bedroom, so he ran in immediately. What happened? The wife in the room stood there in a daze. The daughter sat on the bed with a blank expression on her face. The younger son, who was sleeping on the upper bunk, rubbed his eyes, sat up too, and said, "Dad, my sister said she wants to drink water." Tang Tang was very confused. Could it be that this family is so poor that they can't even drink water? The woman lowered her waist and asked with red eyes, "Tang Tang, can you say something again so that Mom can listen?" Tang Tang thought for a while, then whispered, "Mom, I want to drink water." The woman burst into tears. "Tang Tang, you can talk." The middle-aged man was also excited, and asked her with tears in his eyes, "Tang Tang, look at me, who am I?" Tang Tang hesitated, "Dad, Dad." The couple hugged her together, crying and laughing, talking incoherently. Tang Tang's eyes wet for no reason, and she also cried, "Mom, Dad, Dad, Mother." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1596. This family came from other places, and their hometown is Tianjia village, so the husband and wife both have the surname Tian. They sell breakfast at the gate of the university, make a living by running a small business, and have a son and a daughter. The eldest daughter, 22 years old, named Tian Tian Tang, has been autistic since she was a child. She cannot communicate with others, cannot go to school, and has no money to send her to treatment. I fell down 3 years ago, and the symptoms became more serious. Not only did I not speak, but I also needed help for normal eating, drinking, and excretion. Even so, the couple still did not give up and took good care of them for 3 years. The youngest son is 11 years old, named Tian Tian Xiao, healthy, precocious and sensible. I slept with my elder sister on bunk beds since I was a child. Although my elder sister was young, but because my elder sister was in poor health, she would always help me with housework. She was a child who seldom worried. Tang Tang got a general idea of the situation in this family and heaved a sigh of relief. The original owner of this body had no communication with her family, so even if she showed a different personality, she would not be suspected. It can be said that there was no psychological burden at the beginning. But this one is really poor. Although it's not so barren, she has never lived in such a small house. Tang Tang stood in the bathroom, looking at the dim mirror, trying to step back, trying to take a picture of her whole body. But the bathroom is too narrow and cramped, and it's close to the wall after only 2 steps back. She sighed helplessly, there's not even a mirror that can reflect the whole body. But she weighed her chest. So big. Her breasts are much bigger than Ruanzimo's, and she can't cover them with one hand. Couldn't help pinching again. Well. Feels good too. Poverty can be tolerated, but poverty cannot be tolerated. Now she feels much better. This body is really tender. I don't know if it's because of eating tofu curd and drinking soy milk since childhood, it looks so white and tender, it seems to drip water when you pinch it. Of course, it is also more sensual than before. After all, Tian Tian Tang has been lying still all year round, and her waist and legs are fleshy, which belongs to a slightly fat body. Get fat. She touched her chest and felt that she was worth it. Mother Tian walked into the bathroom, and suddenly saw her daughter touching her chest in front of the mirror. She was stunned. Tang Tang, what are you doing? Tian's mother was astonished. Tang Tang was very frank, holding her heavy breasts, and said, "Mom, my breasts are so big." Mama Tian was stunned at first, and then a sad and guilty expression appeared on her face. Tang Tang was puzzled. What did she say? Why this reaction? It's because Mom is too careless. Tomorrow, Mom will go to the street to buy underwear for you. Tian's mother wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes, and held her daughter's hand. Come on, let's wear Mom's first. Tian Tang has been lying on the bed for 3 years, and Tian's mother takes care of eating, drinking, and toileting on weekdays. She has to turn over and scrub every day, so it is more convenient not to wear underwear. And the size of her previous underwear was not suitable for a long time, but Tian's mother's size was about the same as hers, and she could barely wear it. The size is okay, but the fabric. Tang Tang reached in and touched the ball on the fabric, feeling indescribable. It is difficult to go from luxury to frugality. What she used to wear in the past were all high-end products, and it really didn't matter if she couldn't wear big-name clothes, but she couldn't wear something that suits her heart. So sad. It is rare to have a pair of big breasts, but you can only wear cotton underwear that cannot be worn down. It is a waste of money. After she was reborn, Tang Tang set her first goal, to have a comfortable underwear. As for Gu Liang, where is the coolness and get out of here? In the hospital, the man on the bed slowly woke up. Shao was laying on the side of the hospital bed, almost crying bitterly. Brother, you must be safe. If something happens to you, how will my mother and I live? Gu Liang was in a coma, looking at the blurred figure in front of his eyes. He murmured, Tang, Tang. Mother Gu, who was wiping her tears, was taken aback when she heard the words, and pushed Gu Yan. Who is Tang Tang? Your brother is raising a woman outside. I was overdrawn too much yesterday, and it was very difficult to write today, and there is one chapter that will be released late. I wrote a tragedy as a comedy, a little embarrassing. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1597. Gu Shao cried out of breath, it seems to be my sister-in-law's nickname. Impossible. Gu's mother had a questioning expression on her face. The two sisters, one Ruanzimo and the other Ruanzixuan, whose nickname is either Momo or Xian, how could they be called Tang Tang? As soon as the voice changed, she became happy again. Now that Ruanzimo is dead, it's just a matter of time to marry a woman from outside. I said a long time ago that Ruanzimo is a bastard. Ever since she married in, your brother has never met her. Good thing. Mom. Can you stop talking? Guyan was so annoyed. Brother is like this, can't you be quiet for a while? Gu's mother pursed her lips, and wiped away the wet tears with a handkerchief. When she first heard the news, she couldn't help crying, but later the doctor said that Gu Liang was fine, but the explosion caused the rupture of the eardrums of both ears and a slight concussion. Most inner ear injuries heal on their own within a month or so, and if they don't improve after a month, repair surgery is required. These injuries are almost negligible for a survivor who was rescued from the explosion site, and even the doctor said it was a miracle. Gu Liang regained consciousness, and the doctor checked him again, and his physical condition is generally good. Gu Shao pulled the doctor and asked nervously, Doctor, will my brother lose his memory? Will he forget his brother and mother? Don't worry, Mr. Gu just had a mild concussion, which is not that serious. However, during this period of time, symptoms such as dizziness, nausea, and hearing loss may occur. Family members need to pay more attention and contact the hospital at any time. The doctor comforted him a few words, and when he left the ward, Gu Yan was still worried, and asked Gu Liang, who was on the bed, Brother, please say something again, do you still recognize who I am? Gu Liang supported his head, frowning uncomfortably. Where's your sister-in-law? He asked. Gu Yan glanced at his mother at the side, and organized his words in a difficult way. Brother, you have to mourn. Sister-in-law, she passed away. Gu Liang closed his eyes, and the scene before the explosion was still in front of his eyes. He was stunned for a long time, and said in a hoarse voice, Yes, she died. She died. Die right in front of my eyes. At that time, being surrounded by hideous ghosts, With kinked corpses and black blood everywhere, it should have been an extremely horrifying scene, but he only felt heartbroken. If he had trusted her a little more, if he hadn't dodged when she took the knife, if he could have held her hand tightly without hesitation, would the result be different now? It turned out that when life and death were on the line, his love would become so vulnerable. It turns out that the love that is willing to die for someone can only be believed when you really give your life. Gu Liang closed his eyes tightly, trying to lock the hot moisture in his eyes. I was in a trance in my mind, and I vaguely heard her delicate voice, "Gu Liang, I will cure your illness and be very obedient. Will you take care of me? You take care of me, okay?" She asked him many times, but he never responded directly once. Because, he was afraid. Fear of finding out you're just a substitute after falling in love. Fear of the so-called deep affection, it turned out to be just taking advantage of. However, he forgot that she would be afraid too. In the white snow, she threw herself into his arms, laughing non-stop, "Gu Liang is the best to me, I like Gu Liang the most." In the boundless black mist, she looked at him blankly, and smiled coldly, "You don't love me, no one loves me." Gu Liang realized that he had lost something. In this life, the most important thing. It stands to reason that it is a great blessing that the patriarch of the Gu family survived the catastrophe, but the entire Gu residence was lifeless, as if shrouded in an unknown haze. Huang Logui stood outside the high wall, flicked his sleeves, and thought, "It's time for me to go out." "Tang, don't blame me, since I've already sold you twice, it shouldn't matter if I sell you a third time, right? Make it up, good night zzz. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again." Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1598. Huang Logui cheered up and rang the doorbell. There was a square electronic screen on the doorbell, and the servant's face appeared after a while, asking him, "Who are you looking for?" Old Ghost Huang cleared his throat, "I have something important to do, I'm looking for Mr. Gu. My husband is not here." Old Ghost Huang was taken aback, "Not here? Where did he go?" The servant frowned, with an unhappy expression, "You can also ask where my husband is going." After all, the electronic screen of the doorbell went off, and the servant stopped answering him. Huang Logui was dumbfounded, "This is wrong. Didn't Gu Liang just leave the hospital? Where can I go?" On Yangzia Mountain, pilgrims come and go in Baiyun Temple, worshipping God and praying for blessings. There is a large vegetable field in the backyard, and the green growth is gratifying. There is a large tank next to the vegetable field. After a long period of time, a small half of the large water tank is deeply sunk in the mud, and the surface is covered with moss. A black cat was rubbing its beard and mouth against the wall of the tank, and its tail was wagging slightly, showing a look of enjoyment. Taoist Master Miaoqing walked on the field ridge carrying 2 buckets of water. The shoulder pole was heavy, but his steps were light, and the 2 buckets of water did not spill a drop. He put down the bucket, picked up another bucket, and poured water into the tank. The mountain spring water was crystal clear, accompanied by the sound of water. He said, "It's common for fate to come together, Mr. Gu, why are you so persistent?" Gu Liang said, "She said she would keep this cat for a lifetime, but now that she is not here, I will fulfill her wish." Miao Qingdao sighed and looked at the black cat, "Do you want to go back?" Meow. The black cat meowed softly. The Taoist priest smiled, "Then you go." Gu Liang squatted down, picked up the black cat, and gently stroked the black cat's head. His heart seemed to be soothed, and gradually calmed down. The mountain was quiet and peaceful. Gu Liang didn't go back immediately. He stayed in the Baiyun temple and lived the life of a layman, listening to morning classes, eating vegetarian meals, carrying water to irrigate the fields, and his words and deeds are all about practice. Gu Liang was looking for peace of mind in the mountains, but there was a commotion outside. saying that the head of the Gu family wanted to become a Taoist priest because of the loss of his beloved wife. When Tang Tang saw this news, the tofu brain almost spewed out of his mouth. "Are you sick?" she couldn't help complaining. "He's so handsome, so going to become a Taoist priest, isn't that a waste of resources?" "Tang Tang, what are you talking about?" Papa Tian, who was busy in the kitchen, asked. "It's okay," Tang Tang thought for a while, and ran to the kitchen with the tofu brain. "Dad, I think our family's sign needs to be renamed." Tian's father was busy working, and asked with a smile, "What should I change it to?" "Tian's tofu now, change it to Tian's bean curd, okay." "Hey, it's almost the same." "It's so different. One is a bloody brain, and the other is a beautiful flower. The smell and taste are different." Mama Tian, who was sitting on the stool picking beans, couldn't help laughing. "You child, what you say is so disgusting, you have no brains." Father Tian smiled and said, "Anyway, it's just one word, and it's easy to change. If Tang Tang wants to change it, let's change it." Tang Tang was happy, and said again, "Add another slogan, organic soybeans, green and healthy." Mother Tian smiled and said, "Our beans are ordinary soybeans, not organic." "Anyway, the person who bought it won't be able to eat it," Tang Tang said indifferently. "How can that be?" "Wouldn't that be a lie?" Papa Tian shook his head disapprovingly. "Tang Tang, you must be honest when doing business." Tang Tang nodded indifferently. "Oh, then don't add it, just change the signboard." Then happily went back to the room. The couple looked at each other, smiled, and continued to work. The next day, the stalls will open as usual, and many college students get up late, so the early stalls can be opened until 10 o'clock. At around 9 o'clock, the couple were about to close the stall when they saw Tang Tang running towards them from a distance, carrying a plastic bucket in one hand and a small bench in the other. "Dad! Mom! Wait for me. Let me set up a stall." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life. Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1599. The daughter is sensible and wants to start her own business and earn her own living. Of course, the parents agree with both hands. However, Mama Tian still couldn't help persuading her. "Tang Tang, selling breakfast is very hard. If you want to set up a stall with your parents, you must get up earlier next time." "No, no, I can't get up," Tang Tang waved her hands. Waking up at 8 today almost killed her, it was so painful. Father Tian said, "Don't worry, get up 10 minutes earlier every day than the day before, and get used to it slowly." "Got it," Tang Tang replied with a smile, set aside the small square table, and started to set up a stall. When others sell bean curd, they always sell it in a bowl, and you can choose between salty and sweet flavors. When Tang Tang sells tofu curds, she serves 2 bowls in advance as samples. One bowl is topped with crushed Oreos and 2 colored egg rolls, and the other is topped with red beans, honey beans, and sweet corn. The Tian family's parents looked at each other in dismay. The bean curd was made by the daughter, it looked fresh and beautiful, but, is this still early? At this time, a group of female college students passed by the breakfast stall, and they were attracted by Tang Tang's new style bean curd. "How much is a bowl?" Tang Tang said, 10 yuan a bowl. The couple gasped, and stood by the side not daring to say anything. Their tofu now costs 2 yuan a bowl. However, the female college student was obviously not short of money. When she heard the price, her expression didn't change at all, and she just took out her wallet. Tang Tang glanced at the female college student's companions, and asked, "Would you like to have a bowl too? It can enlarge your breasts." "Shua, shua, shua." Their eyes fell on Tang Tang's chest, and their eyes immediately changed. Tang Tang sold 4 bowls of bean curd at one time, holding the money and smiling at her parents. It turns out that doing business is so simple, haha. Tian's father blushed slightly. Mother Tian pulled her daughter aside and said in a low voice, Tang Tang, how can you lie to me? I don't have one. Tang Tang blinked her eyes with an innocent look on her face. Soya beans are rich in protein, lecithin, and phytoestrogens, and they can indeed enlarge breasts. Mother Tian was stunned. Oh, yes, is that so? That's it, Tang Tang said firmly. In any case, Tang Tang's first stall was smooth beyond imagination. He sold more than 30 bowls for an hour and earned more than 300 yuan. She is a shameless person. Obviously the tofu curd is made by her parents. She only produces some snack ingredients, but all the money she earns goes into her own pocket. The Tian family couples don't mind, their daughter is healthy and energetic, they can only be happy. It's just that Tian's father felt a little bit sorry for the price, thinking it was too expensive. He was embarrassed to ask his daughter to lower the price, so he wondered if he could make Tang Tang's bean curd more worthwhile. Father Tian went to the market to buy cocoa powder and red beans. For duhua with aria, cocoa powder is used for making it. For duhua with red beans, of course red beans are added. In this way, the cost price has increased, and the price of 10 yuan seems reasonable, and it can live with conscience. Tang Tang said happily, Dad, you are so good, let's sell a bowl for 15 yuan in the future. Father Tian. Tang Tang broke her fingers and continued, oh, it's terrible, it's terrible. In this way, can we still make taro flavors, matcha flavors, strawberry flavors, lemon flavors? We're going to get rich. Where is it so easy to get rich? Small business, no matter how much money you can make, is limited, but compared with the Tian family couple's hard work in making traditional bean curd, it has indeed greatly improved the family's conditions. Especially this kind of bean curd can be sold not only in the morning, but also as tea in the afternoon and supper in the evening, so the sales volume is naturally much higher than before. Looking at the gradually increasing income, Tian's father also inspired his ambition, gearing up for a big fight. When his income doubled in the first month, he was going to invest money to purchase raw materials and new tools, but before he could take action, Tang Tang bought 4 mobile phones back in one go. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1600. 4 mobile phones, all the latest models, one for a family of 4, even 11-year-old Tian Xiao. Tian's father and Tian's mother's heart hurts. Daughter, money is not spent like this. Mom and Dad's mobile phone is too old, and many software can't be installed, and it will crash after installing it. Tang Tang plausibly said, now is the information age, mastering a mobile phone is equivalent to mastering information. If you don't want to be eliminated by the times, you must have a cell phone. Mother Tian looked sad, there is no need to buy it for Tian Xiao, he is still a primary school student. Elementary school students now have mobile phones, Tang Tang said, the younger you are, the less you can lose at the starting line. Mobile phones can help Tian Xiao broaden his horizons, and if you are tired from doing homework, you can also play games and relax. Tian Xiao raised his hand weakly, sister, the teacher won't let us play games. Tang Tang looked at him with wide eyes, are you stupid? Just don't let the teacher know. Honest parents. The innocent and ignorant younger brother. After Tang Tang got her mobile phone, she started taking selfies. Take all kinds of beautiful photos, fresh and tender beauties, white and tender hills, smooth and tender bean curds, all perfectly and harmoniously combined into a beautiful scene. Tian Tang is not the kind of beauty with a bright face, her facial features are only delicate, but her skin is good, crystal clear, as if she grew up in a pure oxygen environment, her delicate skin has never been attacked by ultraviolet rays and dust. For this kind of girl, there is a term, oxygen beauty. Tian Tang opened a Duhua shop on the internet with her mobile phone. With the endorsement of the oxygen beauty image, she was soon promoted to become an online celebrity shop. From then on, she didn't even need to set up a stall, and directly set up a billboard with a QR code next to her parents' breakfast stall. Scan the code to follow Xiaoshan Tang's Duhua shop, place an order with a mobile phone, and it will be delivered fresh. The takeaway business is so good that Tian's father and Tian's mother simply stopped making breakfast and helped their daughter make bean curd at home sooner or later. It was too easy for Tang Tang to do this business. Don't worry about the purchase of raw materials. Don't worry about how to make the bean curd smooth, tender and sweet. Don't worry about cost and labor expenses. She is only responsible for attracting customers and coming up with ideas, collecting delicacies from all over the internet to find inspiration, and then asking Papa Tian to research and make them. Through his daughters forced and squeezed, Father Tian developed a kind of brown sugar bean curd, named by Tang Tang as the Palace Brown Sugar Bean Curd, and is enthusiastically sought after by female students in various colleges and universities. With this, she established her status as the goddess of Duhua and ushered in a new career high in her life. Amazed face. In order to thank her fans, Tang Tang spared no effort to create new products. She has added mint, popping candy, cat's claw marshmallow, and even bird's nest to the bean curd. When you enter the online store, you can see a slogan, "What we sell is not Duhua, but Xiaoqing." Half a year later, the Tian family moved out of the bungalow in the alley and lived in the elevator room with 3 bedrooms and 2 halls. Of course he didn't buy it. The housing price in Xinjiang City is still very high, but according to the rate at which Tang Tang makes money, he should be able to buy a new house next year at the most. In September, the residual heat of summer has not yet faded, and the air is still filled with dry heat. The bus was full of seats. Tang Tang tightly held the ring, and tried to balance her body's center of gravity as the bus swayed. I thought silently in my heart, if I save some more money, I can buy a car, right? But she can't drive, and she doesn't want to go to driving school to learn how to drive. Who will drive the car after buying it? Dad makes tofu curds every day. If he is allowed to do it, it will definitely seriously affect the turnover. She was thinking about it when she suddenly felt someone touch her chest. Tang Tang froze for a moment, then turned her head to look over, and there was an old man standing beside him looking out of the car window with a serious expression, without looking sideways. Tang Tang looked away, suspicious in her heart. The bus swayed again, and the middle-aged man seemed to be unsteady and tilted onto her body. Tang Tang's eyes widened. "Uncle. Are you okay?"